The way it all started is I'm a son of a sculptor, fifth generation artist. Apparently my pyrotechnic fascinations came out at an early age. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, my father came into the basement off the garage and saw a flickering in the furnace room. And he comes in and finds this little kid, sticking the broom handle into the oil furnace and sitting there just watching it burn. And so he started taking me to studio shortly after that. And so I was always around in that environment. He's a ceramic artist and sculptor. It gave me that impetus of like, yes, I can play with fire, but let's be creative about it. So it certainly started off in ceramics. I've dabbled in glass, but really my fascination is working with metal. This balance between fabrication, welding, grinding, cutting, with generating patterns and casting, transforming those objects into cast forms. Predominantly bronze, but some aluminum and cast iron as well. My brain works spatially. There are times where I'll draw and try to sketch things out a little bit, but it's all trying to deal with illusion and kind of faking things to make it look like it's three-dimensional. I'll start off working in clay as my way to sketch and or a combination with doing VR sculpting. And then it's basically the idea of working in maquette and scale. One of the great things that's come about in the last few years is working in VR. And so now I can actually draw something and I can pick it up and then move it around. Or my VR space is big enough that I can set up a piece, blow it up to life size, and I can physically walk around it. Now I'm in that three-dimensional space, and I can rely on the body mechanics, the muscle memory that I've spent 30 years developing down here in the shop, translates directly into the computer space now. The reality, especially when you start going large, is that you're dealing with physics, chemistry, engineering, structural aspects, so things aren't falling over and killing someone. You really kind of have to have a grasp on every aspect. I love working big, but at the same time, trying to launch into something that's going to take several months and tens of thousands of dollars to do, I want to work out some of those problems working small. And then that actually allows me to present that to a juried situation or the funders. Different designers and stuff like that will design something, but then they take their design to a fabricator. And then that fabricator is going to give them exactly what they want. I can certainly work as a fabricator, but by being the designer and the fabricator, there are a lot of really cool, creative decision-making that I can do during the process that allows my pieces to evolve from the beginning point to the ending point. And that's a lot of what keeps it exciting, to keep your attention and focus through the entire process. The large stuff is all fabricated out of plate. And so I'll work in cardboard, draw out different designs, lay them out onto the sheets of typically stainless steel, and then I'll use a plasma cutter, slice those out, clean them up, shape them, and then weld those into the existing sculpture. The bulk of my work is fixated on the body, and ultimately the idea of body language. And so between that and a combination of the fact that I'm basically a child of sci-fi, and so I've always been really interested in technology and how do we perceive ourselves through that technology. And so I do work with models and different dancers, rock climbers, circus performers, contortionists, and ultimately I'm interested in people that are speaking with their bodies but also taking their bodies out of context. Those are the ideas that are generating my forms, and whether they're hanging off the wall, coming off the ceiling, or in a balanced pose out on a pedestal, as I'm watching the viewers come up and react to it, it's my way of kind of my social experiment of seeing how people deal with that communication, that body language. The sculptures in a lot of ways aren't really complete until they find their way out, and whether it's in a gallery space or on the street corner, I'm trying to make the objects in such a way that they garner a response. And whether that forces you to hate them or love them, I don't care. But I want you to think about it. And, the thing that's most frustrating is when you see someone walk by one of your sculptures and they don't even look at it. Then it's like going, oh, I failed. It's like going, I didn't do something that at least made them take a second look. I just want to change people's perception of their space or their surroundings. I was never comfortable talking in front of groups, and so it was always easier for me to retreat to the backyard or the garage or ultimately my dad's studio and speak through my materials. So when it came to expressing ideas, or more specifically, really processing my life experiences, it was always easier to do that through generation of objects.